talking, start doing. Stop talking, start doing.
You're looking to be more creative and innovative?
Here on the beats.
And one of the keys to unlocking your potential is an entrepreneurial mindset. I like to say permission granted. No one is successful overnight.
Keep on keeping on.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are at in the world, and welcome to day 21 of 31 days to PADITU. We now have 10 days in front of us, which is remarkable considering how quickly this has all gone by. And I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. I want to also let you know that we have identified two entrepreneurs, business builders who will receive free coaching, no cost coaching from me, 1 hour. That's Matt H. and Carrie E. Thank you for everyone who signed up. We had a lot of signups, and we look forward to receiving more. Matt and Carrie, be on the lookout for some contact to schedule your coaching sessions, and I look forward to engagement and visually supporting you to accelerate your business endeavors forward. This morning, I'm not going to go into a visual exercise or tool that would help you advance your concepts or ideas. Instead, we have a special guest with us today, Ted Cundiff. I know that I've talked a lot about the importance of having relationships with bankers, lawyers, accountants. Ted is a banker. He's the CEO of ABB Bank in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He and I have been friends and collaborators now for almost 20 years. And so we're going to have a conversation today, and I hope that it's helpful for everybody out there to understand the importance of engaging and becoming friends with a banker. Ted, are you, Amy, can you bring Ted in? Ted, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Sean? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here, man. It's the only way we can see each other now, right?
Exactly.
Well, you and I have a long history, Ted. And the one thing that's consistent with you, though, is you've been in banking the entire time, and I've kind of meandered and taken different routes. What's it like being a banker right now? This must be one of the more interesting. I know you've been through some difficult cycles and some really good cycles in terms of economics and the economy, but right now, of course, is something that you never could have prepared for.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Probably one of the most different times in banking that I've ever experienced. The interesting thing is regulators in the U.S. require us to be prepared for things like this. So over the years, we've had pandemic plans that were half a page long. What would you do if a pandemic broke out? Meaning, what would you do with staff? How would you protect themselves? Because as a bank, we're legally required to stay open no matter what, to provide financial services to the citizens. So we come up with ways. So it's been real interesting going from an exercise that we did 30 minutes every year to meet regulatory requirements. It just came real this year. And walking through it, of course, that half a page of items that you thought through, well, when it really happens, there's probably another 100 things you didn't think of that you're having to go through now. Just like, I've got departments in the banks that are all located together for synergies, for collaboration, so that they can work together, efficiencies. I had to separate all of that because if one person within that group got the coronavirus, everyone else was exposed to it, and I would lose an entire department. So I had to separate my staff and put them in conference rooms and seminar rooms and spread them out all throughout the bank to make sure that we could still function. So going through those exercises of things you never really thought of that became reality within a week or two.
You know what? ABB's lucky because you're an entrepreneurial banker. You're not like other bankers, Ted. And I'm not surprised at how quickly and efficiently you were able to adjust and modify. One of the areas that we've talked about on the show with a number of the businesses that have been coached here live, Ted, is the need for a relationship with a banker. As a banker, can you explain a little bit more about the importance of having a relationship with a banker, building that relationship, and a character kind of relationship you can build that can help life be much easier in good times as well as challenging times?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably times like these, whether it's a pandemic, a financial crisis, something, is probably the most important time to have those relationships, not with a banker, but not just banker, but as you said, accountant, lawyer, other things, because things pop up that you've never dealt with before and you have to deal with. But for banking itself, we do look at numbers. Everything has to fit within our models of regulatory requirements. But one of the things that we weigh heavily on as a community bank is the character of the borrower and knowing how
Mhm.
to react in difficult times. If they run and hide in a hole, that doesn't give us warm and fuzzy feelings they're going to be able to work out of it. If you have that
Mhm.
relationship and you know the person that is going to come in and tell you what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. And, we can sometimes take those items and help them think through it and reimagine where they need to be and help them get through those times. And, it's that relationship that gives us comfort knowing that they're going to dig their heels in and work, really weighs into how much we can help them in some instances. The numbers play into it as well, but definitely character plays a lot into banking and lending money.
So one of the challenges we see with people, there's a nervousness, an anxiousness, banks, they can make people uncomfortable. Totally understandable. Um, what advice would you have for how someone, let's say they have zero relationship with a bank, maybe they've never even opened a bank account, possible. And what would your advice be in terms of the first steps to go build a relationship with a banker? What would you recommend for them to create that relationship? Like just the first steps.
Yeah, I think the first step is finding someone that is like-minded with you that you fit with. I mean, it's just like shopping for an accountant, a friend. You know who you connect with, who you can talk to. I mean, it's that same thing. Whenever I bring on a new relationship within the bank, if it's my relationship and they need a banker, then I kind of walk through my lenders to try to match personalities and talents as well. So it's that same thing. You need to go shop for a banker. You need to look for someone that has personality traits that you like, someone that you can communicate to. All people are different. Bankers are different. You got to find one that fits you.
This makes me think about different banks, right? So there's cultures within banks as well. So it's also looking at the type of bank. Like I think of State Africa, and they're innovative, they're creative, and they would be a bank that I can see you could build a relationship with because they're looking to be on the forefront. They're looking to be more consultative and more supportive, where other banks they're just running through the motions, right?
Absolutely. As
And
you said,
so, what are some of the key things to look for in the banks before you even get to the person that gives you a clue that that bank may be a more innovative, more progressive bank that would be one that you'd want to work with, particularly if you're a new business and you're trying to or an existing business is looking to go get some money.
yeah, I think back to your point earlier on culture. The larger banks have more regulations, restrictions, just because as you get larger in the banking industry, the requirements become more stringent. So um, there is a reason for a large bank, because of networks and the amount of services and other items. You may need that. But a lot of the smaller banks, the community banks, we're a family owned bank. We're a family owned business, just like any other business. It's just that happens that our business is lending money, but we're a small business. We have a family that owns it. It's no different from someone that owns a retail shop. Same thing. And
Mhm.
with those type of environments that breed a culture that if you do need that personal relationship on a small level, then community bank may be your fit. It just depends on who you are, what business you run, and what fits you.
Today, it's even more hard to create these kind of relationships because everything's going cashless and wireless, but yet that relationship's still critical. And so the tendency I think people have is to ignore the bank in terms of going into it, building the relationship. It's more about a transactional thing and moving my money around from one account to another or paying for different things. It seems to me that, we haven't talked about this, but it seems to me that could be a growing challenge for people, particularly if they want to build a relationship with the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. I think times like these bring that back to the forefront. Just as a community bank, we're trying to go more to that digital side for convenience. But I can tell you in times like these, my cell phone, which all my customers have my cell phone, has rang off the wall wanting to run ideas by me going, hey, this is what's happening in our industry. What are you seeing? Because you see several people in my same industry. What are they doing? Who can I connect with? And I've seen more collaboration in the last 60 days than I've probably ever seen in my life, both within my industry, but also within our community and everyone as a whole, which is a good thing.
I mean, well, you live in an area that while towns and cities compete against each other, economically speaking, there is still collaboration. And so it seems to me this is like a rallying cry. And I've noticed it on Facebook that within the Tulsa region, people are really coming together, particularly, and I'm going to bring this up now, Tesla. What you got any inside information for us, Ted?
There's discussions going on in the background. I don't have any personal knowledge of it, but I know several discussions that are being had. It's between us and Austin. Of course, in Oklahoma, cost of living, cost of doing business is so cheap compared
affordable.
Affordable. There you go. It's actually cheap here, but
relative.
Yeah, relative to other places. So we'll see. I think the biggest challenge for this area in Tesla is trying to find enough workforce all at once to make that happen is probably one of the biggest conversations being had.
Yeah, this is one of the new Terra factories. It's not even a gigafactory. It's one of their newer ones, which is just kind of exciting. It'd be like one of the first Terra factories built. Well, California, he's not a big fan of California anymore, is he? Elon. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to, you don't have any real good gossip for us, Ted. Thanks. Next time, get some dirt. When someone is looking for money and they decide I'm going to go to a bank, or they've got started a relationship with a bank, what are some of the key items that they would need to bring to you that would, in paper form, their finances and other things? What is it that would help you with that business to provide some loan, cash advance, some creative option for that? What would they want to bring to you that would help you?
Sure.
Your team at the bank help them out.
Some of the main things, of course, are tax returns, personal financial statements. But I think one of the key things that some people think about is that business plan side of helping the banker understand who you are, where you've come from, what your talents are, your experience in it, why this is a good fit for you and why you have experience and this is going to be a good loan. So I think that explanation and that story of who I am and what I do outside of the financials, the numbers are what the numbers are, but telling that story and bringing that piece really helps us if it's a new relationship to understand and to get to know the person faster.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Because there's no real magical trick to this. It kind of everything has to fit together to make it work.
Exactly.
Well, somebody knows you, Ted. There's somebody saying hi. some Facebook user out there. You're not even on Facebook, are you, Ted? You do any social media?
I don't.
Zero. You might be one of the last people on the planet who's not on Facebook, Ted.
I just hang out at the lake and get away from everything.
Well, hey, I think it's better in a lot of ways. You don't need it. Don't spend time on something that's not necessary related to the kind of work you do. So, what are you seeing? You're seeing collaboration amongst businesses, but what are you seeing amongst businesses that clearly their model is not going to work? Oh, here, let me back up. I believe we've advanced 10 to 15 years in the last 2 months. Things have changed. 10 to 15. It's a 10 to 15-year advancement just took place in terms of this kind of reality where it's virtual, people buying, the new economy is being formed. We just don't know what that new economy is yet. Just like the gig economy was a new economy back in the 90s and into early 2000. What are you seeing in terms of potential new economies or economies that are moving or business models that are going to go away? And are you seeing anything that's going to be successful at moving forward? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's real interesting. Externally, anything entertainment related, of course, is just devastated right now. And
That's restaurants too, right?
restaurants, movie theaters, hotels. I mean, travel is stopped.
90% decline.
Right. So, I mean, anything that's entertainment, VRBO and all those places are, being challenged because no one's renting space and traveling. And I think it's going to be really interesting if you go down to the local level. Some of the wedding venues and other things that there's no gatherings for the last 60 days. Some of that will come back. It'll probably look a little different until there's a vaccine, but I think people are trying to recreate their business models. And here's an example of what I've seen. I was just on a committee that we had some grant money, and we're trying to fund some of these small businesses to help them reconfigure, reimagine their business model. And there was a lady with a sewing machine training class. And so she had a place that she rented that had sewing machines, and people would come there and she would teach them how to sew, do other things. Well, of course, you can't have gatherings. She didn't have enough space to really separate people enough to do social distancing. And so she's reconfigured it. She's now sending or traveling around to people's doorsteps, dropping off their sewing machine, and then having a Zoom class, and they all get on the Zoom class and doing their sewing. She's reimagined it. It's costing her a little bit more in fuel and stuff to deliver them, but she's still been able to do business. So it's things like that have shifted for a time. She will probably go back at some point to the old model, but I think people are adapting and being pretty creative right now and trying to keep businesses alive.
I've taken an approach where I've created a 1-year strategy for myself. And in 1 year, we're pretty much going to be in the same position. Things might change. A vaccine may have been formed or created, and then it's got distribution and it's not going to go global. So then it's like another year, that we're going to be in some kind of mixed up situation where it's still going to be difficult because not everywhere is going to be figured out how to suppress or manage COVID. What kind of time frames are you imagining related to COVID-19? And when a vaccine's in place, that doesn't mean that it's just being distributed. It's just we've got a vaccine now, and it's possible and still not tested fully, right? What are you seeing in terms of, and what are your banker community saying in terms of time frames?
It's really interesting because some of the most affected that we talked about, the entertainment industry, I think they're taking it more day by day because as they reopen, come out with new CDC guidelines. Here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, we've actually reopened. We've been open about 2 weeks. I went to a restaurant last night, ate out on a patio for, I guess that was my second or third time to be out and actually eat out at a restaurant again. Things are just different when you go to the restaurant. There's no condiments on the table. There's no napkins, no anything. It's a clean wiped table, and you sit down and they bring you a paper menu that's disposed of after you touch it. And it's just a different environment that they're adapting to, but they're adapting to those things.
Yeah, but the question is, like, how long do you think that, because I mean, there's some predictables, right? It's got predictability to it. And we know where other countries have opened up, it's a resurgence. And
Right.
those countries in particular, many of the countries and the ones I'm thinking of, which include Wuhan in China, Germany, Berlin, and I can't remember the third one, New Zealand, somewhere in New Zealand, they've seen new spikes, and they're far more strict on the containment of the COVID. And now we've reopened. And so the concern, or the real predictability of it, is it will spike again, and then we'll be back into a closing down situation. So like a double situation. It seems like it's inevitable because of the way that's being managed right now.
Yeah, back to your question on the time frame. I mean, just like that small business owner or restaurant, I think their time frame is taken day by day and trying to figure it out. Once they get into the groove, I think they may look out. I think a year is roughly the time frame everybody needs to understand it. We're going to be in a different world for the next year. That's until, as you said, a vaccine will probably be here within that time frame, but then they've got to ramp up production enough to get it to enough mass to where, if you think back to the polio vaccine, whenever they found it and then everyone got inoculated and things kind of normal. I think we're in that same period of time, about a year, to get things to whatever the new normal is. But I think a year out is what everyone needs to get comfortable with. It's going to be different.
One of the reasons we did, and I just, that's good. It reinforces the way I'm thinking, and I appreciate that, Ted. It's not what I want to have happen, but I think that one of the reasons we did 31 days here with PADITU is that 21 days creates a pattern, right? It creates a new kind of way. You change your behavior. And 21 days is usually right around the time. It can go a little longer. It really becomes a change. And so 31 days is partly driven by forcing a shift and a change in behavior, which really struck us, ironically, like the 19th. We started things started changing, coming together as usually happens, right? In this case, we're going months. And so behavior change is dramatic within people. And it's not simply something where they're going to go back to their old behavior. Even if they want to go back to their old behavior, they're not going to go back to their old behavior because they've got a new behavior pattern, which has become synced in, which is much more homebody, much more cooking meals, much less going out, much more, just not being busy, I think, is part of it. What are your thoughts around this? Just the pattern changes and behavior changes that we're going to see as this lasts another year. That's a long time, and those behavior changes are stuck now. They're not. The change back now would be some other kind of situation. But this globally, everyone's experiencing something similar. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting. As a banking institution, we closed our lobbies on February 20th. We had to keep, of course, drive-throughs open. That's how we're conducting business. You could call in and come by appointment into the lobby during that time frame and conduct business, but it was by appointment only, so the lobby was closed. So that was February 20th.
Yeah.
Before, spread staff out. We also have probably 30% of our workforce working from home. As a bank, we have never had really anyone working from home.
Right.
So it's a whole new shift. Well, in the last 2 weeks, as things have reopened, we're putting up protective plexiglass shields and getting the lobbies ready to reopen with protection and all the things that we need to do to reopen safely. So cost money, but in the last 2 weeks, I'm starting to get phone calls from employees that are working from home saying, "Hey, this is working out pretty good for me."
I knew it.
So yeah, there's going to be a shift in trying to figure out what ones that make sense, because over time, I think the real estate market is going to be affected by this too, because, not just us, but I'm hearing more and more that corporations have figured out, hey, I'm paying pretty high rent. People are working from home now. We're still getting productivity. It may not be quite the same productivity, but what's the cost analysis on a large scale building versus a little bit of efficiency loss? Those are the things that I think are going to be weighed that we've never thought.
There's been conversations out in the front yard here. We have these like community gatherings. We stand in our front yard and everybody talks in their front yard. It's very different. But everybody's communicating. There's community happening, and two of the neighbors were in the lookout. We're just about to sign leases for new space for expansion, and they decided not to. And in fact, they're looking at canceling their other one and having everyone work remote now full time, because they're seeing that it's actually not just a cost benefit, but they're seeing improved productivity from people because they're able to work more hours or more time at their flexibility.
Right. And the younger generations, as you and I are getting old, Sean, but the younger generations.
I'm getting younger, Ted. I don't know if you could see this.
Yeah. So, younger generations have looked at places they want to live and then go find employment. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see even a bigger shift of people going to where they want to live, because you can now work remotely more so, I think, in a lot of cases than we ever thought was possible. So I think there may be a shift in our geography of where people want to live.
It took 20 years, Ted. You remember we did that with Zena, Kristen and I. And it's been there all this time, right? It's been there for 20 years ago was about as far as you could go, because I think we had 8 phone lines into that property to be able to, most in the county, to be able to conduct business remotely like we were at the time. But now it's so much easier. And literally you can live anywhere and work and do what you do. It's a little different with you in a bank, because you do have people coming in, but this behavior may shift now.
Right.
Interesting. What do you do, Ted? Like when you're stuck, when you get hung up on something and you can't, you're trying to get through it. What do you do to get unstuck?
Well, there's this guy that has these visual tools really help you out a lot.
Thanks. That's one technique, and it's a very good one, actually. But what do you do? Like, do you use people like me, or what do you do yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Sean has helped us with some of our strategic planning in the past, and through those efforts, we always kick off those with kind of a warm up and get people thinking differently. And Sean always has some of his viz tools that we walk through to kind of open everyone's mind up to get them to think different before we go into strategic planning. So occasionally when I'm stuck, I grab one of Sean's tools and pull it out and do the little refresher, walk through the exercise, and it seems to bring my mind to a different place to start before I need to make some decisions and pathways. But one other thing that, back to the collaboration that I talked about before, I think trade associations for businesses have been a huge help. I can tell you that through the PPP loan program, the EIDL loan program for people in the United States that know about these, that have helped small businesses get through these times of closures, the trade associations have been amazing. We've made so many connections. I've talked to so many of my competitors in the last 60 days about what they're doing, or if we figured out, because the SBA was not real quick in giving us guidance, but if some bank figured it out before another one, then we all collaborated to say, okay, this is how you do it, or this is where you need to go to get the information you need. And it was really something that ramped up quickly. And through that, there were Zoom calls created with our senators, our congressmen, through the trade associations that were talking directly to the Treasury and to SBA to try to get the information as quickly as possible. And so all of that collaboration really worked well. And it also gave you something to, as you said, when you're stuck, go to someone that is doing the exact same thing that you're doing. So take it out of banking in context. If you're a retailer, you know other retailers and owners of them. If you're stuck in what you're doing, go to some people that are in the exact same position you are. You know, they're trying to figure out the exact same things you are, and collaborate with them.
Right.
And
Yeah,
you know,
we've recommended associations to a number of businesses that have come on the show. I think we've had like 50 some guests now, and that's a great recommendation. And even if you're in another country, I want to point out for our guests out there, you can join associations that are in other countries. So you could join an association of manufacturing in the U.S. You could join an association of fashion. You can join an association of marketers, whatever it is. The Association of Agriculture, and so there's all kinds of associations, but they are definitely a place to connect. And right now, as Ted's pointed out, they're holding virtual remote sessions which you can learn from. So that's just phenomenal advice, Ted. And everybody out there, if you want to text your questions, 202-642-7089. Amy, if we can get that up on the bottom so people can text any questions they have. I'm going to ask one last question, Ted. And this is around the idea of giving it away. We've worked, so for our audience out there, Ted is part of helping found and start what is Startup Cup, going back, can you believe this, 13 years? 14, 13, 14, 15? I don't know, too many years. We are getting older. Thanks for being such a huge support of that as well. That went against the grain at the time in Tulsa. And so historically, we've talked about and worked with businesses to help them understand freemiums and how to give away something so that it helps drive people and then you upsell them. Today, under COVID-19, my thinking is a little different about this, and that giving away stuff is a way to build a relationship. Not a lot of stuff, nothing expensive, but giving away something that because of COVID-19, because of the situation, that can help people, that would help them in their situation, and then also build greater trust. So there's an opportunity to build a greater trust. And I'm sure as a bank, you're doing something to contribute back in a way that goes above and beyond what you were doing before. What are your thoughts about giving away right now some kind of service, something that would help people in this difficult time? Do you think that it's different than the freemium model pre-COVID-19, and that this is an opportunity to build stronger relationships, that on the post-COVID-19, you've built a lifelong customer, perhaps?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways right now, and I think the most powerful one right now is the giving away of knowledge. And that knowledge, not just with what I talked about with how are we figuring out the new business model and all of this, but some of the knowledge is we found a couple of suppliers that had supplies of N95 masks. And so we're letting people know that, hey, there's a supplier that has them. We're helping the supplier out, but we're also helping people that need the PPP to reopen. Same thing with wipes and plexiglass and other resources and all that. So I think this is a time of, more importantly than anything else, of sharing of knowledge and resources. Resources is the big thing of, you know, we've been able to find X, so here's where you can go find it too if you need it. Because people in those same industries are all needing the same thing all at once. And so being able to navigate that more quickly with those resources, I think, is a huge benefit.
Excellent. But it's knowledge, and I think you're right. It's knowledge. And I just want to say hello to Kelly Soul out there. My Chair Spins, Star. We got a number of people on the show right now, Ted, who you know and they know you. They say you're looking good, by the way.
Looking great.
For that? Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show, Ted. Our time is run out, and will you come on again? We're gonna continue on at some level going forward, but and this is unscripted. It's about giving away PADITU, putting it down in the universe, giving away knowledge, giving away resources, giving away access to people that people wouldn't have access to, generally speaking. And so, thanks for being here today and bringing a finance and banking perspective that is so important. And you still remain my favorite banker on the planet and are truly an entrepreneurial banker and a blessing to everyone who gets to work with you, Ted. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Shawnee.
Thanks, Ted. Love you. Talk to you later, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, that's just so nice. And Ted and I have been through a lot together. And through osmosis, I'm working with him over the last many years. I've gotten to know banking quite well. And he's right. You know, we have to think different. And sharing your knowledge, sharing what you have, sharing what you can do to help with other people out there. This is a critical time to do that. I like to call it giving it away to get it back. I don't know when it's going to come back to me, but it will come back because I'm giving it away. And that's the intention behind 31 Days to PADITU, put it out in the universe, is to give away knowledge and experience and wisdom and access to resources the best we can during this challenging time. Amy, do we have another guest? Emmanuel, how are you? It's been forever.
Yeah, it's been forever. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Everybody, this is Emmanuel Naimi. He is in Ghana, Ghana Startup Cup, Africa Startup Cup, and really an advocate and champion of entrepreneurship, not just in Ghana, but throughout Africa. And author of a book I wrote the forward on. What's the name of that book? Can you promote that for us right here, Emmanuel? Can you hold up a book? Copy?
Rise Above.
Do you have a copy of your book you can hold up?
Oh, I don't.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Emmanuel. What's the name? What's
I don't.
the title of the
Oh,
book?
gosh.
What's the,
I ran out of copies.
what is the title?
It's Rise Above.
Rise Above. There you go.
Rise Above.
Is there a website somebody can
Yes.
go to learn more about it, Emmanuel? Is there a website that you can give us to promote?
Yes, sure. I mean, just go to emmanuelnyame.com.
Okay.
And every detail is there. Yeah.
Yeah, they can learn all about you. How
Yes,
are you?
Emmanuel Nyame.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, I'm all right. Ghana, Corona. We're all
Is this a song?
indoors trying to, do our best to adjust. Yeah. We're trying to adjust to the situation. So everything is like cool. I mean, although there's a whole lot of uncertainty about, the pandemic, we're just hoping things get better pretty soon.
Of course. Well, were you watching TED just before?
Yes, I heard everything about, the banking sector and, how you can get support, for, your business.
So we're also
and
talking
stuff.
about how long this is going to last, and that thinking in year chunks of time is going to be your best bet, so that there's not going to be much change for a year at least, and so putting that into, and then another year on the back end of that, and I think that depending upon where you're at in the world, your ability to gain access to vaccines or whatever it may be coming, that it's going to be even more challenging in some places. So just, I'm putting that out there so you start thinking a little bit about what you can do to think different in terms of time frames. That this is not going to be a quick, sudden shift that's going to go back to normal. It's something very different's occurred and is going to continue going on. What's happening with the businesses there in Ghana that you work with and you support? What are you seeing right now?
Well, yeah, thanks first and foremost. I mean, for this interview, I feel really honored to be invited to join, Strong Griffin Life. It's been so many years. I remember the, time we met in Ghana and, the fun experiences and, mentoring businesses in Ghana. Well, things are going on, the same. Just that because of coronavirus, most businesses have had to painfully adjust. Either they're working from home or they are adjusting their systems, transferring everything to online. And so I think Corona has its good sides and bad sides for Ghanaian businesses. Some have collapsed, no doubt about it, but others are also trying hard to, not just sustain their business, but to ensure that their workers and employees are having, a good time. And our government is also doing well. Our government is giving out soft loans at 5%, 5% interest to businesses. So I think, yeah, I mean, hopefully it's like how do you call it? Survivor survival of the fittest, so you just have to push yourself beyond your limits and get things done. Yeah.
What are you seeing as like the biggest challenge right now?
Well, the biggest challenge right now is, the stage where you adjust, your systems. If you're not used to, for example, if you're not used, let's take schools for example, schools that are not used to teaching students via e-learning, it's going to be a huge tax. You need an IT person. You need to incur costs, to transfer everything online. If you're not, I mean, even Zoom, I thought Zoom was free, but Zoom is not free. You have to subscribe. So all these things come at a cost, and
Right.
that's a challenge. The challenge is, how do I adjust my business or my services so I keep on increasing revenue and also getting some monies to pay my staff. So that's the challenge. I mean, if we can have experts coming to say, okay, I can help you pivot your business model. I can help you change things to suit the current lockdown period and everything, so you don't lose a lot when it comes to revenue and funding. I think that would be a very good thing for businesses, especially the small businesses here in Ghana.
Well, I'm giving away an hour of free coaching a day for the rest of our days here on 31 Days to PADITU. Please do have anybody sign up for that in Ghana to get that. And also they can send their questions to
Okay.
918, I'm not 918, 202, 202 642 7089. I don't have that memorized yet.
Okay.
And so that anybody you've got that wants some help and support, we'll do our best to help them. What is the government doing there to help increase, or is there anything, do you know anything to gain greater access to internet, stronger connections? Because this continues to be our biggest challenge anytime we're dealing with anybody from Africa, is just the uncertainty anywhere, any country in Africa, the uncertainty of the access or capabilities of the internet to be able to connect confidently. Just like you right now, frozen on our screen, Emmanuel, to the point that this is really an important thing. And I don't know if you can hear us, Amy. Are you there? We lost him, huh? You think I queued that up perfectly, didn't you? Well, you have another question for me? Something that came in writing that we can work on, Amy? Because maybe that's the best way to go until we see if Emmanuel can come back. Because that question is really critical. So many businesses can't really go online right now as effectively because the online strategy requires consistent and dependable internet access. And as we saw there, it's just difficult in some parts of the world, even in the United States, in rural parts of the United States, it can be difficult. And so got to have some kind of connectivity, consistency in that connectivity. Okay, I'll take this question. Oh, that was too fast, Amy. I can't read it that fast. All right. What is the difference between market and actual addressable market? Let's bring Ted in. I see Ted still here. Ted, can we bring Ted in for this? Maybe.
I'm back.
Ted, you're back. Now you're going to help coach.
Perfect.
You got to unmute, Amy.
I said someone can, but can I? That would be the bigger question. One moment. I'm sorry
Go
about
back
that.
to that question, Amy, please, and let's have Ted review that because I think this is a Ted question. No, you'll be fine, Ted. Can you see that question? What is the difference between market and actual addressable market?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure the app.
You want to ask a question, don't you? Just project like you understand the question in full and then give us an answer.
Yeah. I mean, someone's market and the addressable market, I'm assuming that what their market is today and what their market could be going forward. And so I think that's shifting for a lot of people because, back to the restaurant concept, restaurants run on table turns, and the government has just said you can only have 50% of what the maximum you could have before. So the question becomes for a restaurateur if you were struggling before because of the space you had, I have concerns with your larger cities, your New Yorks or Chicago's, that space is very compact for restaurants anyway. So if you take away 50% of their revenue, is that a viable business anymore? I don't know. They're going to have to shift to a whole lot of takeout, or they're going to have to stretch out the time frames of, instead of having a lunch from mainly 12 to 1, maybe we're going to have to train people to go from 11 o'clock to 1:30 or 2 to get the same amount of people through there in an extended period of time. And, I don't know.
Deliveries and all kinds of options. But the market, let's just think about it. But when I think about this, the market, and let's take the healthcare market. It's a big market, the healthcare market. The addressable market might be just the testing, the ability to. So I've got a test. I've got the ability to test for COVID-19. We've had one company on here that has a test for COVID-19 in Hanoi, Vietnam. Capacity to manufacture 1 million of them a month. Very interesting. Their addressable market, though, is only the market that is people getting tested by COVID-19. It's not the entire healthcare market. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And one other item I wanted to bring up on your conversations with Emmanuel and internet. I don't think it's just internet's the issue. Everyone's software is being exploded. So it's not just the internet, it's systems that themselves. If you look at the PPP program that the SBA put out, was never made to handle an entire nation using it all at once, and banks all across the nation using it at once. They had to take and basically, from what I understand, build a whole new platform within a matter of weeks for it to just handle the volume sent through there. It still crashed on occasion, but
even Zoom's had challenges, right? Just went from a mere 10 million users to 200 million overnight, right? That's stress, and then everyone's online, so it's stressing things out overall. But in those countries like where Emmanuel is in Ghana, they don't have the same bandwidth we have, and so it becomes a real challenge on top of the other challenges. And then what we haven't talked about, and let's not get into it, but we just have all of our systems are in crisis right now. All of our systems. And this you just brought that up, and that's a conversation for another day, Ted. Let's see if we got another question. You want to co-coach with me? Let's do it.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. Amy, next question. Oh, we got Emmanuel on the call. Emmanuel, meet Ted.
Hey.
Startup cuppers here. I love it. Okay, Emmanuel, you didn't hear my question to you, which was around internet access for people and consistent and dependable internets, particularly in I think of Africa, and we have a lot of challenges getting people consistently on the show where there's a dependability. And as I was asking you the question, you froze. Do you know, is there anything happening within the Ghana government to help support a stronger bandwidth for internet, greater connectivity for internet for people? Back to you. Is he frozen again? He's frozen again. Amy, let's go to a question Ted and I will coach. That's too bad. What question do we have? Hold on one second. We are accepted as part of a local accelerator, and they are asking us for 10% equity in return for mentoring and networking. Is it worth it? Oh my goodness. So let's go back. This, from my perspective, that's the only way that they should get an accelerator should take any equity from you is if they're putting in money on top of the networking and coaching you're receiving. So this model that you're stepping into from this local accelerator is one that's challenged because they're only providing, from what you're saying, they're only providing coaching and mentoring, and that is available to you free on different locations all around. It may not be as tailored as it needs to be, but this accelerator puts up a red flag for me. Back in 1993, I started an accelerator, an incubator called TSIBS. I was part of that process. And in Silicon Valley, and we started by doing that, the 10% equity for access to the coaching and mentoring, the networks of coaches and mentors. Ian Marie Harmony led that, and this is like going way back now. And we found that that model wasn't effective, and that there was a higher level of expectation the businesses had for the accelerator to perform, because there's an expectation. You've got a percentage of my company. I need more coaching and mentoring. So I would turn that one down, and I would focus on one that's going to provide you money for your investment, or take no equity and still give you the tools and resources. Ted, what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. I mean, most of the startups need some form of capital, and to give away equity when you're needing capital, I think capital is key, and that has to be a component. If it's a component of it, I would probably be for it, but it has to be a component.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like an accelerator that's trying to start up themselves and doesn't have the cash to invest in you as a business, and so therefore they're going to take equity through access to coaches and mentors. It's not solid. Again, it's a red flag for me. If they weren't asking for any equity and you can enter into that accelerator, that's a different situation, and maybe that accelerator has a prize on the end. That's a different scenario. But in this scenario, you could be jeopardizing your ability to be successful, because now this accelerator has 10% of your company. When you actually go raise money, if that's a goal and strategy at some point, that 10% could be a hang up. And they want to get those people out of the way, or they're trying to get bought out. So it just creates complications I wouldn't want you to get into. So the answer from us here, Ted and I, no. Wish we had a big circle we could cross it out. Got another question for us? We got time for one more question, Ted. Oh, Emmanuel's not back. Let's go with a question. Must have it. We got plenty of these questions. Can you give me examples of legal risks? Oh, that's pretty bold. When should a business get insurance? Would I still need it if my products and service could not fail anyone or cause harm? I'm a copywriter, content creator. Thanks. What happens if someone says my product doesn't work and tries to sue me? Okay, that's a really good question.
Well, my take on the business insurance is yes, it's absolutely a must. If you're actually up running in the U.S. and conducting business probably in most of the world as well, you need business insurance to protect you from liability. Even though you think that your product is 100% bulletproof, I can tell you weird things happen out in our world, and people use products as unintended, and it's only to protect you, and absolutely you need liability insurance at some level. Let
me amplify. There are sometimes when you have contracts that you sign to do certain work that requires you to have like $1 million of insurance, and this insurance is not expensive insurance. It's just a liability insurance, and as Ted said, you definitely want to have it. But again, you're going to run into contracts as a copywriter. The larger you get and the more contracts you get that are going to require you to have insurance. So it's better to have that in place. If you don't have it, you can just make a call and find somebody locally who can get you this insurance. It's not a lot of money, and it's just gives you peace of mind. Because you never know, as Ted said. You got another question for us? This will be our last question. And don't forget, I'm giving away. Oh, here we go. I read somewhere that you should have an exit strategy when you start your business. What if I don't want to sell my business or get acquired by another company? What am I missing? You can go first, Ted.
I don't think you need an exit strategy when you're starting your business. When you start your business, you need to be focused on the business and getting it ramped up. There's too many variables in getting a business going and having the resources around you and all that. You need to focus on that. Once you have it up and running and it's profitable, making money, at that point, I think that's a good time when you sit down and figure out, what is my exit? Does it pass on to someone in my family over time? Am I going to position to sell it? Because there may be different avenues and how you navigate its growth depending on your exit strategy. But you definitely need it up and running and profitable before you worry about your exit. That's my opinion, Sean.
I think it's a very good opinion. I mean, let's focus on the first thing first. How are you making money right now? And then the more money you make, the more you need, the more you're going to be able to identify ways to adjust your business, What you're starting with may not work. And as you make more money, the exit strategy becomes clearer to you as you go along the path and process. But starting with an exit strategy as part of your strategy doesn't make a lot of sense. You can dream about it and fantasize about it, I would say, Ted, wouldn't you? I mean, again, you can fantasize and dream about an exit strategy, but if you're trying to follow a path to get to that exit strategy, you're likely to get punched a few times along the way and not have that same exit strategy.
Yeah, it may be coming from the question from someone that's more of an investor. If you're an investor, yeah, you want to have an exit strategy. If you're investing into a company or helping someone position themselves to sell, absolutely, you would want some type of exit, knowing what you're getting into, so and how you're going to get out of it. But for a local business owner, you need to focus on the day-to-day.
That's a good point. So if you are fundraising, you need to be able to articulate an exit strategy. And there's really like 3 or 4 different types of exit strategies you can kind of articulate at this point, whether it's an acquisition, whether it's being bought, whether it's merging. What are some other ones? What are some other exit strategies?
I mean, exit strategy could be to a family member. You may, through your trust or a stock buyout or some other, you may have a competitor that you position to acquire you. There's a lot of different avenues.
But an exit strategy could be to grow a business so that it just continues to grow, and it's actually like a family asset that gets passed on potentially.
Sure. We're in the 4th generation at this bank of family ownership.
So impressive and such great people at ABB Bank. Let's put ABB Bank up, website address up, so people can go see what a great community bank looks like when they go visit ABB. Is it ABB.com?
Bankavb.com.
Bankavb.com. Okay. Now, this, in my opinion, is an example of the kind of bank you want to find wherever you are at in the world is like an ABB bank, because they're going to go the extra mile. They're going to go the extra kilometer for you to make sure that you're being helped the best you can be helped. And so, Ted, it's our show for today. And I want to say thanks for the co-coaching. That was a bonus. You come back. Will you come back and co-coach with me?
Absolutely.
That's fun. All right. That's some of our best times, I think, as well. Thank you for being here, Ted. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all your wisdom and knowledge and advice. And as always, thanks for being such a great friend.
Absolutely.
Bye, Ted. See you soon. Oh, my goodness. There was a lot of wisdom floating around here today. A lot of knowledge shared. I want to thank Ted for being here. Emmanuel, we'll get you next time. I want to say congratulations to, let me get these names right, Matt H. and Carrie E. for winning 1 hour each of coaching from me. We are taking submissions and applications for 1 hour of coaching. I'll be giving away 1 hour for the rest of the 31 days. I think that's 10 days now or 9 days. And so please feel free to sign up. Always text your questions to 202-642-7089. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same PADITU time, same PADITU place. Thanks for being here. I'm going to check it off now. 21 days done. Make it a great day, everybody. Thank you.
You got to never ever give up. Keeping up, keeping up. Never ever give up. Keeping up, keeping up. Never ever give up. Keeping up, keeping up. Never ever give up. Keeping up, keeping up.
Believe in yourself and you'll go far.